The one and only Busted Open, BustedOpenNation.com with, of course, our pal, the one and only Diamond Dallas Page, DDPYoga. The guy, I mean, he just continues to kick ass, and it's so good to catch back up with him in person. Dally, Doug, Mike, my brother, what's going on?
It's good to be here, guys. It's been a while, too.
I know. It's been a while since you've been in studio. I mean, the name has changed, but the same principles keep on going. The stuff that you've done, we know your story and what you went through as a wrestler and what it took for you to get back into the game. But now what you're doing with the accountability crib, with using DDPYoga from a practical standpoint for people that not only need your help from a physical standpoint, but from a lifestyle standpoint, especially Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, the two notables. What you're doing is just amazing work, and you know how we feel about you, but just to see in person and again, commend you for everything you're doing and continue to do. It's just amazing, Dally.
Well, you know, and Jake and I were talking about this when Scott was first getting ready to come up. And, you know, like now we know Jake's going to go down and get him. You know, they're going to go down and have him, you know, a sit down. That was all on our DDP TV. I looked at Jake and I thought to myself, can you imagine if you and Scott both get sober in the same house in the same year, you know? And we just started to laugh about it like, wow, that's just amazing. And I didn't do anything. And I'm just going to be, you know, it's how I honestly feel. All I did was supply my buddies with a really positive place that they weren't going to be judged. I was going to get them to understand, like when I talk about my eating plan, I'll never use the word diet because the first three letters of the word diet are, they don't work. Lifestyles do. And I put movies in front of them like Food Inc. and Genetic Roulette. And then they can see how the food has been so changed that it will depress you. It will put weight on you that'll drag you down emotionally. And once they got that out of their system, they start to feel better, and they haven't done anything yet. But they're already feeling better because they're eating real food. I can't stress it enough. And to watch what Arthur Borman went through and to be able to use him as our Jarrett, and like, Jarrett, really? Like, who'd he ever beat? You know? But to have
Jarrett ballooned back up, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, that's because Subway is not a lifestyle to really. Nothing's wrong with Subway, not for me. You know, I'm not saying, but I would eat more real food, and that's what I got Arthur doing. And when Arthur's transition went through, and I could show it to Jake, really Jericho first, because Chris Jericho is the one who really put DDPYoga on the map.
He doesn't even go to the gym anymore. All
he
does is just use your program, and we see Jericho all the time. We just saw him a few weeks ago. He's jacked up as all can be. Doesn't go to the gym. You
know, the best part about it, and when you say, well, what kind of conditioning can you really get with your DDPYoga? I said, well, how about this? Jericho, who was completely pain-free in 3 months, headlines WrestleMania 2 years ago, continues to work a few more months, then takes off and goes tours with Fozzy for 6 months, like every night playing out. So he's not wrestling. He's only doing one workout. He shows up at the Royal Rumble in the number 2 spot and wrestles for 47 minutes and 53 seconds. Unheard of. But it gave my program legitimacy on a different level. Plus, there's about 16 guys in the Rumble that do DDPYoga. So it was a really cool thing. But he made it, opened up the doors to guys like Goldust. How good is Goldust looking, right? And Ryback. Ryback, his rehab out of the bed when he's blew his whole leg thing out.
Catastrophic injury.
Catastrophic. I mean, 3 different operations on the same deal. Had no core strength. And Ryback, he's a pretty humble cat, you know, behind the scenes. At least it was with me and still is. But he puts it over, the program over all the time. So I had that. But mainly it's Arthur, because they all looked at Arthur. And then when I showed it to Jake, it became like, okay, I'll try it. And then Scott saw Jake when he's laying in his bed, when he was, went through that really tough time where he was in the hospital bed for that week, and that one kid, it's almost like an angel, because it says no visitors. But this one kid who's a fan comes in and he has it on his iPhone. He says, Scott, look what Dallas did with Jake. Maybe he could do it with you. And Scott's looking up like, oh my God, maybe he can. And, again, it was just putting my two buddies in an environment that was caring, loving. Everybody in my house is positive. You're not allowed to work for me with a negative attitude. It won't be tolerated. And you work out and you eat great food. Because I only buy real food, and our food is delicious. I'm doing a workshop in Atlanta, and it's the only time I do what I call the ultimate workshop. And you not only get to, there's only 15 people that can do this. We have a pretty big crowd overall for the overall workshop where we do about 3 hours, and it's stopping and starting, and so it's not like a 3-hour workout, but you really learn how to really break everything down. And then we do an hour, 10-minute workout or something at the end, and I make it so everybody could do it. But after that, those 15 people come over to my house, and we break it down. We have all the food made. We show them how to make everything. They leave with, menus. They leave. I don't want people. I want people to understand healthy food doesn't have to taste bad. I won't eat things that don't taste great. So it's got to taste great. So that's an ultimate workshop down in Atlanta. And again, those guys, they ate great food. They stuck to a minimal joint impact, which, by the way, Scott Hall came up with that. And that's my line. DDP Yoga is kick-ass cardio. It will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before. And then I would say with no impact or zero impact. And my lawyer made me stop saying that.
Damn lawyers.
He said, you can't say that. There's some kind of impact. If you're going to take this to the internet or out there, you're going to be there's people going to come back at you. And it drove me crazy for 3 months. Scott wasn't in the house 1 week, and he heard us having a big meeting in the boardroom. And when we come walking out, Scott pulls me over. He goes, hey, Dally. He goes, come here a second. He goes, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I heard you talking about the no impact and the zero impact. I know it's really, it's busting your chops. He goes, what about minimal joint impact? Because he's been watching the workout every day for the last 10 days because can't do it, but he's watching people do it. I go, that's it. Awesome. Scott paid me back everything just by coming up that for me.
I've been at work since 7 a.m. and I've got no work done because I've been watching your videos since 7 a.m.
Really?
So much so that even I bought the DDP Yoga. Okay, you've inspired me so much, Diamond Dallas Page, that I am going to start this yoga.
What you're going to start this what?
I'm going to start this DDP Yoga.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I don't want to be Diamond Clay by Diamond Dallas Page. But you're such an inspiration. Watching, the HBO special, which I thought was amazing. How is Jake and Scott doing right now?
What's really cool is they're both moved out. Because I moved my girl in and her daughter.
Do you worry about them being out?
I think that they're going to do whatever they're going to do. Scotty is in a different spot. He says that he used to look in the rearview mirror a lot. He goes, now he looks out the windshield, and it's a way bigger, brighter view. And we work out quite a bit, just privately. Because that new hip, Scott don't want to take any chances to hurt that hip. That the fans really came through and made happen for him, with that whole Indiegogo thing. He's really, and he's got his relationship back with both of his kids.
That's great.
That's Cody. And it's really interesting, and no one really knows this. It's just like a source breaking story on you guys. This is the first time I'll talk about this. 24 years ago, I came to WCW as Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestling manager. And I only did it for 5 months because at one point they took it away from me because they said I was overshadowing the wrestlers. And Scott had called me up. I was doing it about 2 months with the Freebirds, which was amazing. And I got to talk for the Freebirds, Jimmy Jam Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes. Can you imagine if Michael P.S. Hayes is 27 years old right now? No one would even see anybody else because he would be so charismatic. He'd fill up the whole TV. And what happened was Scott called me up And he's like, Dally, Scott, man, I need your help. My wife's pregnant. I got to get a job. I just got back from Germany. New York won't call me back. WCW won't call me back. We had that idea about the diamond stud. And then he goes, you look like Andre the Giant with those 2 midget Freebirds. He says, but you won't with 6'6", 295 pounds of twisted seal and sex appeal. And I said, that's a good idea, Scotty. And I had this in my head of wanting to make guys who didn't look like everyone else. And I said, well, let me ask you something. Would you dye your hair jet black? Now, at the time, he's got light brown, blondish hair.
Like Tom Selleck in AWA.
Yeah, like jacked up Tom Selleck. And he said, dye my hair. Oh, Dally, I don't know. I go, dude. If they are not calling you back, I'm not going to get you that call back. We got to create something different. So he goes, okay. He goes, I'll do it. So I call up Magnum. And Magnum TA, remember him?
Sure.
He would have been one of the biggest stars on the planet.
Absolutely.
If he didn't have that that car accident. Because he was on a rocket, And what a charismatic, handsome sumbitch that he is. And still today. TA he was the bumper for Dusty. Dusty Rhodes was running everything, and I always tell people, without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page, because he gave me every break that nobody should have. And I said to him, I want to bring Scott, to come in, if we can get him a tryout. And he's like, let me go talk to Dusty. And Dusty came back and said, nah, we've seen him. He's been here twice. Scotty just couldn't get over. So I call Scott, and I tell him, and that's when he was still on the fence about the black hair, right? And I call him back. I go, dude. They said they already seen you. We got to do that black hair. I said, I'll get you the tryout. So he goes, okay, I'll do it. So I call up Magnum, and I say, Magnum, I promise you, we're going to create something really different here. If you can he'll drive from Orlando to Atlanta. You don't have to pay for anything. Just get Dusty to look at him. He goes, okay, I'll make it happen. So that night, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm staying at my buddy's house. I've left the nightclub business, and I've come to this dream to be in wrestling. Never wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be a wrestler, but I'm too old as far as I'm concerned at that, way into that point. And I see a MTV video, George Michael, and this is when everybody still thought he was straight. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he had that 5 o'clock shadow, and he had some leather jacket on. He looked like a badass. I pick up the phone and I call Scott. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm a night person. I'm a nightclub guy. So, Dally, my wife's sleeping. You can't call this late. And I go, Scotty, I got a great idea. You got to shave that walrus mustache you got and do the 5 o'clock shadow. What? Shave the mustache? Dude, I've had that since I was like 13. So I go, dude, we got to create a new look for you. He goes, okay, I'll see you. I'm driving out of here at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So bottom line, he shows up at my house. He's got the 5 o'clock shadow. He looks like the bad guy, but his hair is like mousy brown. I go, mustache gone? Awesome. The hair ain't going to work. You're going to the girl does my highlights of my hair. So I take him over there. We do him jet black. I dress him in clothes that I wore in the nightclub business. This big lamb hair jacket and came down to his, down to his calves. He's got the Cavariccis on. They get the slide-on slipper shoes with no socks, the tank top, and sunglasses. And I said, you can't take any of this off. He thought I was ribbing him, But when he walked in there, no one recognized him. It got to a point, it was sort of freaking him out a little bit because he knows I'm Scott. What do you mean you don't know me? So he isn't saying anything now. So now we're sitting at food. We're getting ready to have lunch. And he goes, all right, Tommy Rich drove with me for 6 months when I was up here last time. He's got to know me. So he looks over and I go, hey, Tommy. I go, you know the Diamond Stud, right? Looks up, oh, sure, brother, how you doing? And Scott gave one of those slow turns where he looked at him. He goes, you don't fucking know me. and Tommy got scared. And then he realized, he goes, Scotty? He's like, yeah. So that was that whole thing with Scott. So he's pregnant. His wife is pregnant with Cody. Now, 24 years later.
Ah.
He comes up, takes control of his life, turns it completely around. Cody comes up, spends 2 months with us, living with us. And then they both move down the road. They live like 4 blocks from my house.
Wow.
That's really good.
That's great.
That makes me feel really good about Scott. He's got his son, like you said.
Yeah.
Now
and his daughter.
He's reclaimed his life back. He's taken it back, and now his family's back with him. You know, Jake, that kind of scares me about Jake in that, you know, without knowing his personal issues, but a lot of them have been on TV many times, you know, a lot of specials about the snake. Is he afforded that same ability from his family to kind of, you know, let him back in? And if I'm his family watching from afar and I'm seeing these videos, I got to be like, is this my dad? You know, is this the same guy? You'll love this one. We've had a bunch of contentious interviews with Jake. I mean,
wait a minute. Let me put my surprise face on it.
Yeah, seriously.
Really?
I mean, because you know we're going to ask the legit questions. We're going to be tough, but fair. And, you know, a couple times we did that one special. He went off on me. Like, he was about to hang up the phone. It was bad.
Yeah.
We saw him at WrestleCon.
In Miami.
Just before. No, this was this past
Jersey.
year in Jersey.
Right.
How did I not see you guys? Oh, I wasn't there earlier. I had to do the thing with WWE.
You're too busy. Even if you were, actually, you saw us for a second. You're being like whisked away. You're like the BMOC, you know? But there's Jake, you know? And we go up to him, and I swear to God, it was like a different person.
Right?
Like, hey, guys. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, what? Holy crap. So, I mean, on the one hand, it was amazing to see, but him being away from you, being away from the crib, being away from what, you know, all these building blocks that you put in place, it does worry me. Does it worry you?
Jake's going to be Jake no matter what. You know, when people say, oh, God, man, I love what you did with Jake. I'm like, I didn't do anything. Jake did all that, and Jake's still Jake Roberts, you know? But I've never seen this Jake Roberts. Like, when it came time for him to leave the crib, I mean, he made that decision. It wasn't me, because he could have lived with me forever. And I told my girl before she moved in, I was like, baby, Jake is Uncle Jake, and he ain't going unless he says I'm out of here. And always having to be his big brother, you know, in scenarios where I'd have to go, Jake, that's not cool to say things like that. You know, I got sick of saying that to him because I know he's my mentor. He's one of my closest friends on the planet. And he knew it was starting to wear me out a little bit. And he was like, dude, I'm just going to go down the street. I'm, you know, Kyle, blah, blah, blah. And I just think he's in the best spot he's ever been in. You know, he really has a chance to, if not this year, next year, but it should be this year because he's done so much, you know, but he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, I mean, he should have been in the Hall of Fame 20 years ago. You know?
I'd settle for the Royal Rumble, by the way.
Which would be amazing, you know, and then he put that thing, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble, and it got a lot of buzz, you know, but it's like, yo, shut up about the Rumble, because everything's, no one's going to know. And Jake, if they're going to put him in the Rumble, they won't know. He won't know till like probably 4 days out.
He'll be the last to know.
He'll absolutely be the last to know. But, you know, something like Jake, and there was an article written on Bradshaw. Bradshaw has some really good writing on his site, and there's another guy who's done a lot after wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, amazing cat.
What he's doing in Bermuda, amazing.
Oh, yeah, and he does so much for kids, too. He does a lot of kids around his whole summit things that he does. And this going to do any kind of those mountains that he's going up on, God, that's crazy shit to me, you know. But he loves it, and he eats it up, the challenge. But there was an article on his site that talked about how it would really be smart and would be really beneficial to the WWE to actually say, here's one guy that's not going to be a surprise. Because people would, I mean, they're already going to sell WrestleMania out, but there would be so many fans passionate about just hearing his music and walking out. It would make people cry. It would get people, there would be like goosebumps in the entire 80-some thousand people, what's ever going to be at WrestleMania, I mean, not WrestleMania, at the Rumble, 20,000. It's going to be whatever, it'll be 22,000, whatever the Rumble is, wherever they're going to do it. But it would be amazing.
That's going to sell pay-per-views now.
Yeah, it would.
Absolutely.
And he does. All he has to do is be real limited. It won't matter. He's Jake. It doesn't matter.
It's the Rumble, for goodness sakes.
Right. And it's such a tradition of people coming out. So who knows? Who knows what will happen with that? I know that at some point they're going to, as long as Jake does, he's been clean for over a year and a little over. It was October when we brought him in, so it's over a year, completely cocaine and crack free.
Wow, that's great.
And that was a big deal. And he did that cold. There was no, morphine shots. There was none of whatever the shots they do to wean people off heroin or whatever for cocaine. We did none of that. And we test them every once in a while too. It was like a surprise test. Here, Jake, we're taking you down to the clinic. And it was like the first time he goes, I got my first past drug test. I mean, he framed it,
Wow.
and he had, we did it a couple times.
Amazing.
We really do.
You mentioned all the current wrestlers doing the DDP yoga.
Yeah.
Any feedback from Vince at all?
Well, I don't really ever talk to Vince, but Hunter and I are good buddies. Whenever we get together, it's just like when we were back at the power plant, because Hunter was one of the guys who went down to power plant all the time. That Terry Taylor, and I love that he's a part of what they're doing up there, because Terry was right there. Terry taught me and Paul a lot. Like a lot, when it came to the ring, and afterwards, we all love strip joints, and we were in a strip joint.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, right. We were in a strip joint one place at afternoon. After we get done working out, we all went to the club, and we're having a couple beers, and Triple H, he don't drink, he don't do drugs, he don't do anything. He's the designated driver, which again was perfect for him being in the clique when he went up there. And I called Kevin and said, hey, this guy, you want to bring him in. He's a great kid, because Kevin and I, Nash, were really tight. And, I just gave him my, stuff. And after that, you see what happened with Triple H. But the thing that Terry Taylor said, we were all together, me, Terry Taylor, and Triple H. And back then, terrorizing. And he went to the bathroom, and Terry looks at me and he goes, I like that kid. He's got your work ethic. And I said, yeah, and his age. He was 15 years younger than me, So, there's me and him stay in communication. I just got the call from Bill DeMott, who was an awesome guy. A lot of people know Bill from his days in WCW as Hugh Morris, or the trainer for Tough Enough.
For sure.
He did a great job with that. Really great job with that show. But he called me up and he said, hey, Dallas, we want you to come in, do a seminar down here at the WWEPC, the Performance Center they got down there in Orlando. So the week right before Thanksgiving, I'm going down there and they give me the whole day.
Wow.
And I'm just going to take that, and if there's 40 guys there, or whatever the number is, my goal is to get at least 30% of them to really understand what I'm doing and how, because there are no pills anymore. They're so strict about, any kind of muscle relaxers or painkillers. And what those guys are doing at the level they're doing at, they're in a lot of pain. Because they break their body up every night. So they need some kind of painkiller.
Absolutely.
Enter DDP yoga. And that's what Jericho, Jericho's the best. He's 43. He's bouncing around like he's a kid still. And, that was me, still doing that because of the workout. So if I can get a 30%, 35% of those kids to do it, out of that 35%, a minimum of 40%, 30% of that, percentage, which will probably be 10%, 15% overall, they're going to become superstars. And they're going to have that in their toolbox. I just picked up the other day and loves it. King Mo.
Oh,
interesting.
King Mo.
He could use it, by the way,
Yeah,
after getting knocked out again. But
Yeah, well, dude.
different story for a different day.
Yeah, wait and see what happens with King Mo. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I like that you're working with some of the younger guys. I saw Titus O'Neil for the testimonial. He's interesting, too, because obviously you look at the physique. I mean, my God, the guy is
Super
a
stud. Yeah, super stud.
But then let's think about it, too. The guy was at a major D1 football program. He knows training. He understands what it's like to be at the pinnacle of amateur college football success. I mean, you don't get any higher than the Gators, right?
He's Hall of Famer, too.
I mean, he's big time. So for him to get on board in that program, I think that's a whole different set of credibility that lends itself to DDPYoga.
And he did 7 years of arena football, which is brutal on your body.
Oh,
like, I think it's almost worse than the NFL at points.
Oh my God.
You know,
they actually have AstroTurf.
Crash against the boards. Yeah.
It's a brutal, quick game, and he did it for 7 years, and he was the guy. He tracked me down, you know, and he came into Atlanta, and he said, "Let's go to the gym," and he was really not flexible at all. You know, and so strong. So what happens when you put back, like, it isn't just stretching. I've got you engaging and flexing muscles. So it's not only elongating you and stretching you and making you more supple, but it's strengthening your tendons and your muscles and your ligaments. That's how I combined everything together. So when you take that bad fall, or go just anybody walking down the steps, we've all done it, or we come in and we have a little flat place, and then there's that one step and we miss it, and we start falling. I'm 57. 3 weeks ago, or last week, I was in L.A. I was at my buddy's palatial mansion he's got, and as I went down that one step, I didn't see it. And I'm carrying something, and my whole body buckled, but it caught me, and I came back up. Now, if I'm not doing DDPYoga, I fall, I tear my knee out. Something is really bad. And a lot of people who do the program, when they end up hiking, because there's all that uneven ground and all that, can take that boom, but they pop back up or they slide down, and they get up. Your body, when it's supple, when it's flexible and strong, you hit and you come back up. If you're not, you see a lot of these football players, the hamstring. They start running down the field. Well, maybe you should have done some DDPYoga before you went out there. Because I got like these quick, fixes to get you just ready to go in 10 minutes. And you're completely warmed up. And that's really important when you're on the sidelines and stuff. And that's my goal, is to get in the NFL, in the NBA, and to get that spot there. And when I can help take a guy who's at the end of his career and give him that few more years, in that scenario, like King Mo, I'm bringing him out to my house. We're going to spend a couple days together. He's already all over the eating. He's like, this is like, fuel at a different level. Like, he got it. And I think you're going to see he's going to be a guy we're going to do a story on and go through it. He's got a great work ethic, which is very important.
It wasn't long ago we saw you actually in the ring with Heath Slater. Got to talk about that experience. That was amazing.
It was
amazing
fun.
Time.
It was fun, and he's a great kid, really a great kid. And the crowd, oh my God,
they popped huge for you, Dallas.
It was great. It was like, whoa, I don't even remember being here in Laredo. I'm sure I was.
You were.
Yeah, I was there at some time. But the crowd was so hot, and just doing the handshake pull away, and The Rock did that a lot after I did that. Again, Rock following my footsteps. And I got to put The Rock over big time, because the biggest action star in the world. I don't care who goes out there and does their thing. Rock is the cat. He's the man, and he's one of ours.
Pretty cool.
That's a really big deal to me. So I love it personally.
Have you been watching wrestling lately? Any insight? Because we always have these conversations, and a lot of people fail to remember what you had said earlier in our talk here, which is you came in as a manager. You are one of the great mouthpieces, whether you were outside of the ring or in the ring. So your takes on wrestling are always kind of unique and very different. When I think of pro wrestling right now, I think of a couple things which I don't like, specifically what we're calling like the new kayfabe, this blurred line between reality, you as a person, and you as the wrestling character.
Yeah.
They got this whole Total Divas thing, and now you're seeing, you got Bryan Danielson and you got Daniel Bryan. And to the common wrestling fan, it's a little bit confusing. What I do like, though, and I think you'll appreciate this because you've worked with them, is the resurgence of managers, specifically Paul Heyman. How freaking amazing. We are calling Paul Heyman our 2013 MVP. He's been that good, that impactful for WWE. Everything he touches is gold. Give us, your thoughts on wrestling, and, comment on Paul. I'd love to get your take on that.
Well, I got a great story about Paul, because there is no Diamond Dallas Page, most likely, without Paul Heyman. And what I mean by that is when I sent my demo, and I'm about to re-release it on DDP TV, and the demo I made up was a couple of wrestlers, me and some chicks in some scantily clad outfits, the Diamond Dolls, and I sent it to the AWA. And I got a call, like, right away. And they were like, we want to bring you and your guys in for a tryout. Now, this is 1988, like January, sometime around then, maybe February. And I was like, and he goes, but we have a question. We've taken your tape around, and everybody's pretty impressed with you, but no one's ever heard of you. Where are you working? Well, none of those guys can wrestle. What? Well, what did you send the tape in for? Then I go, well, they want to learn, but it's like a secret society, and they don't know, and those guys want to learn it, but I could manage right now. And they're like, okay, well, don't call us, we'll call you. And 2 weeks went by. I thought, okay, I had my shot. I had an opportunity. I didn't really get it, but at least I tried, right? Then Paul Heyman, who's in the AWA, as Paulie Dangerously, leaves and goes to the NWA with the Midnight Express. Huge hole opens for a young guy who can talk, because the AWA was losing everything then. Vince had just stole everything. Anything like from thinking of people who came out of the AWA.
Oh boy,
Okerlund, Hulk, Bobby Heenan. I mean, just those three names alone. Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, they literally built out every facet of their organization from the AWA.
And it was just because, I guess Vern didn't think they could make it without him when Vince made them the biggest stars ever. So, them stripping, the guys who were there, the Nasty Boys, Mr. Perfect, God rest his soul, one of my favorite people ever. He told me he loved the first day I was out there doing my thing. Because let me look. I'm going too fast. So I end up getting the call.
We just got to listen faster.
Yeah, let's go. I get the call back from the AWA when Paulie leaves. Now it's Greg Gagne, and he's like, Diamond, we want you to come in, and we want you to bring all those crazy clothes, because I had, the zebra skin jacket, the leopard skin jacket, sequins. I had all that stuff. I'm wearing it in the nightclub in Fort Myers, Florida. Okay, I used to tell my buddy Kurt Church, can you imagine if I ever have a reason to dress like this? So I had all these rock and roll clothes, and I made DDP rings and the whole thing. And it all happened, that idea happened in the back of my bar one night after work, and we all drank and got shit-faced, just sitting around talking about when I tried to wrestle when I was a kid. That's where it all came from. And then it turned into this video presentation, and now I'm really going to do it. Well, Paul has left. So now let's segue back over to Paulie. So later on, when I leave the AWA and I'm doing Florida Championship Wrestling, where Dusty brought me in to be a color commentator, and I was like, whoa, Dust, I don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. And he was like, oh, baby, don't worry about a kid. Gordon Foley will walk you through it all. And I learned so much from the Dean. Gordon Foley was the man, and so doing that there, and then Dusty left because he couldn't make Florida go, and he went back to WWF, and that's when we did the whole polka dotted thing. And at that point, now they're bringing me in for a tryout, but Paulie is in now it's WCW, and they brought me in for a tryout at WCW because Paul wouldn't sign his contract. So I was like this guy that sort of followed Paul, and then when we got together, we became buddies, and then he does what I think was the most creative thing ever in ECW, and every wrestling fan knows it. And Dusty used to say, kid, I feel bad for you because you should have been a part of that. You should have been able, you would have popped. You would have loved it. He loved ECW. And I would have loved just showing up one day in there, hit a couple diamond cutters, blew the roof off, and to go through the people. It would have been unbelievable. But I, called Paul up, and I said, I got this idea for Scotty Levy. There's nobody out there for this grunge group of kids. And, we were calling him Raven, and he's got, he's getting the promos down. He ain't got it down yet, but, after he gets it down and stuff, I want to try to bring him back WCW. So I don't want to tell you this to help you get a job and then tell you I'm not, And Paul was cool with it. He's like cool. He figured he'd keep him later anyway. But bottom line is he did some amazing things there. So, I got a lot of respect for Heyman. He's not really good at telling the truth at times. So I'll give the other side of that too. He could tell a white lie, but none of them ever, to me, they've never been like negative. But I really love him, and I love the spot that he's got once again, in the limelight where he belongs. He's great at what he does, and I'm a fan of watching his stuff. Absolutely, I love having the manager coming back.
Yeah, that's great.
It's awesome.
TNA's for sale. Any aspirations there, Diamond? We need away from Dixie.
No, I love Dixie. I'm just telling you, I love her. But she, not her, but Jake went on and said something about wanting to buy TNA.
Yes.
We saw.
He was just kidding, I'm like, dude, no, WWE, Hall of Fame, somewhere down the line.
Serious.
Yes.
But that's Jake just having fun. But I hope something works out with somebody, only because the boys need another place to go.
Pro wrestling needs
absolutely
a counterpunch to WWE.
Somewhere.
There has to be.
They're not on the same level, of course, by any level, but either was WCW at one point, But you'll never get that back again. You'll never have Hulk in his heyday, like where he should have gone out the pasture, but he stayed and became bigger than ever.
Seriously,
and the way Scott and Kev came in. It was just the NWO. It was the greatest angle ever. Eric, that I was a part of that. And what really amazes me, I saw the NWO, the WWE version or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Bischoff sits there and gives me the credit for literally making it happen with Scott and Kevin and everything. And then they don't mention another thing about me, and the whole thing was Sting's in the rafters. How can you surround Sting? He never even came down. I took all the ass kicking. I was there. My mom would go, how come they have to leave you lying every week? I said, well, Mom, there are times where I get away and someone with a diamond cutter go through the crowd. That I like.
What do you think about Hulk, real quick? I mean, it's interesting that, an interesting time, let's just say, for him to exit TNA, especially with WrestleMania 30 right around the corner.
He's Hulk Hogan, bro. I would love, I've offered my services to him before, and that's when I was in LA.
He needs it, man.
I would help him any way I could, because he really helped me. Because when you get to that one spot where you're there, I got to tell you, Hulk Hogan walks up to me in Germany. Now, this is around 94. Kevin's the champ. Whenever Kevin was the champ, it was whatever year that was. I think it was 94. And Hulk, when I walk out, Jim Duggan, who I want to mention about Jim in a second, but Jim Duggan, I'm wrestling. I got the curtain jerker match, first match every night. And we're at the fifth or sixth night, and we're in Berlin. And when I walk through the curtain, Hogan's there, and he grabs me, and he pulls me over. And he says, how you doing it? I go, doing what, Hulk? He goes, getting so much better. I go, wow. I go, thanks, man. He goes, I've been watching your matches the last couple nights. He goes, this is what, I don't see you on TV that much, but when you're on, you're always doing something a little different, but I don't see you on TV that much. He goes, this is how they're getting you to really learn your craft. They're putting you on the road. I said, no, they're not. I said, dude, I haven't been on the road in 3 months. I said, the only reason I'm on this card is because my real last name before I changed it to Page was Falkenberg. And the Krauts love their Germans. And I got a smoking hot wife that walks me to the ring. I go, that's the only reason I'm here. He goes, wow, you're getting so much better. I said, well, I go to the power plant. And he didn't really understand that because in his day, it went from one territory to another, and that's how you got better. And they could camouflage you and, and change your name and whatever. And I figured out, and this applies, anybody who's listening right now, this is a lesson in life. And I went down to the power plant because wrestling is a lot like playing the guitar, meaning that you can't really get any good unless you play all the time. So I went back to power plant. I started training the young guys. And I realized the more you teach someone, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better you get. And Hulk goes, okay, well, however you're doing it. He goes, whatever you're doing, you need to keep doing it. because it's not today or next year or the year after. He said, but somewhere down the line, you have the ability to draw huge money with me. And he walked away.
Wow.
Now let's manifest that 4 years later. Hulk is on the stage of the Tonight Show with Rodman being interviewed by by Leno. Hulk and Rodman are being interviewed by Leno, and me and Malone walk out with the chairs over our head. The number 2 leading scorer of all time in the NBA, Karl Malone, has my Diamond Cutter shirt on.
Amazing.
We throw the chairs down, we throw up the Diamond Cutter sign, do the bang, and we face off with those guys and shoot our angle, the biggest angle ever for WCW as far as money. Super coverage across the planet in the biggest show in the world. Not a wrestling show. We're shooting an angle on the world stage, the Tonight Show. It was crazy.
Wow. Well, we'll totally get the Duggan plug in. We got to go. Of course, they're booting the wrestling guys out of the studio. Go figure. Here's the one thing. We don't promote anything on this show. That's just not what we do. But we do promote DDP Yoga because it's a different type of thing from a different type of cat. At DDP Yoga, at Real DDP, DDPYoga.com. It's a must check if you want to get physically better, or if you're down and you want to get healthy. That's the man right there. Mike's doing it. I've done it. Diamond Dallas Page, one-of-a-kind individual.
Can we get the Duggan thing in?
They're literally booting us out of the studio.
I was just going to say, Jimmy Duggan had torn rotator cuff, and fans just came out big time to help him. It wasn't something I did. I was just helping him out and get the word out there. And if you want to get pictures from Jim, or you get phone call or Skype, it's really awesome. And I tell you what, the fans came out. I want to thank all the fans for doing that, helping out one of our brothers out there. It's pretty awesome.
You're the best, DDP.
Thanks.